This video contains the fair use of third-party content and does not violate copyright code or any of YouTube's terms of service.
What I think you could also do is be the UBI guy, the UBI czar. I've got this bill right in front of me that I'm looking at right now. I think it is time that we listen to what you are proposing. So many of your supporters believe so deeply in. I believe we should be a country that should be experimenting as much as we can right now to test ideas in the same way that businesses and any enterprise, any university, any organization will test something and see how it works, make some tweaks, and then roll it out nationally.
I would love to be the UBI guy. I would love to be the anti-poverty czar.
Yeah.
Talk about something fulfilling.
Greetings, welcome to Stop Theocracy. I am your host. My name is Brandon. As indicated by the title of this video, Andrew Yang is to be the next president's UBI guy. Now, this of course requires Democratic candidate Dean Phillips to actually successfully become the next president of the United States. And I gotta tell you guys, prior to getting this news that Dean Phillips is interested in having a UBI, wants Andrew Yang to be his UBI guy, looking around at the various 2024 candidates that are actually getting media attention, none of them really stood out as anyone that I particularly wanted to vote for. And this has been a pretty common problem for me from one election to the next. That is, it's pretty normal that when there's an election, none of the candidates that I actually hear talked about in the media seem to be particularly worth voting for. Because, I mean, like, what are they actually offering? You know, are they going to solve any problems? Are they going to do anything to noticeably improve day-to-day quality of life? And of course, the answer to that question typically winds up being no. So I generally just wind up not even voting from one election to the next. The main exception to this that I've seen so far has been the 2020 presidential election. I actually did vote in that one, because that's the one where Andrew Yang came along with his plan to provide a UBI, right? A universal basic income of $1,000 per month. And that's something I could actually get excited about. $1,000 per month, that actually would noticeably improve day-to-day quality of life. So I was really rooting for Andrew Yang, really wanted him to win the 2020 presidential election, really wanted that $1,000 per month. But of course, unfortunately, he did not win. Instead, we got stuck with that piece of shit Joe Biden. So me and millions of other people who really could have used the money got screwed out of $1,000 per month for no good reason. I mean, it's not like Biden's a particularly good president. He doesn't even provide basic income. Hasn't provided anything better than basic income. Hasn't provided a just as good alternative to basic income. Hasn't provided anything that's, close enough. That'll do, right? None of that. But of course, this is nothing new in America. Every single president we've had my entire life has been a terrible president. Whether we're talking the Democrats, the Republicans, one of the Bushes, Bill Clinton, Obama, Trump, Biden, every single one of them sucked. Now to clarify, I'm not saying that they've all literally never done anything right. Every once in a rare while, they'll do something right. But that's not exactly glowing praise. Think about the standards that we have for kids. Like what if it was a student we were talking about? A student taking a quiz, and that quiz has 20 questions on it, but they only get 2 of those 20 questions right. Well, good job on the 2 questions you got right, but if you got the rest of the quiz wrong, that's still a failing grade. And that's why I give an F to every single president we've had my entire life. Because of all the problems that they could have solved, but they chose not to, everything they could have done to noticeably improve our day-to-day quality of life, yet they chose not to. So the F here is for failed to noticeably improve day-to-day quality of life. I mean, think of all the problems that we have that are perfectly solvable, but they just keep choosing not to solve these problems, right? We still have poverty and wage slavery, homelessness, taxation, inflation. The cost of rent is still too damn high. The cost of buying a decent home is still too damn high. The cost of land for putting affordable housing onto, too damn high. Taxes are too high. Guys, we don't even need taxes in this day and age, right? This is the age of fiat money, digital currency, right? Money's basically a renewable resource these days. They can always just create more of it. There are, of course, some fallacious arguments against the idea from people who have been brainwashed with economic pseudoscience. But the logical fallacies of economic pseudoscience are not going to invalidate my point that taxes are an oppressive, archaic, outdated, completely unnecessary, obsolete way of funding things. The government does not need to tax us in order to properly fund things. We really can rely entirely on a bottomless budget of renewable digital currency, just kind of creating new digital funds as needed for funding whatever the hell needs funding. Not that we need to be doing a bunch of frivolous spending on every stupid little thing that we can think of, but there certainly are certain things that need to be funded. But anyway, suffice it to say, because we keep getting such shitty presidents and such shitty presidential candidates, that's why it took the 2020 election with Andrew Yang and his UBI plan to get me to actually vote. And yes, I'm aware that Andrew Yang wanted to fund UBI with certain kinds of taxes. This is just a minor disagreement we have. He wanted to use taxes to fund it. My attitude is, let's get rid of taxes, rely on a better way of funding things. But to his credit, the tax plan that he came up with was actually pretty good for a tax plan. For a presidential candidate, I'm not going to give Andrew Yang an A+ grade, but the fact that I actually voted for him would seem to indicate that he gets at least a passing grade. And of course, what it comes down to, the reason I'm willing to look past the fact that he's not getting rid of taxes is because he wants to use them to fund a universal basic income, which is kind of necessary. Oh, and by the way, this perspective that UBI is kind of necessary, this is not just my opinion. Like, this was actually a report that recently came out in the news. I was watching this on The Hill, right? They were saying that the American people need $12K more per year in order to afford the basics. That got me thinking, $12K more per year. Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, that's right. That's what Andrew Yang was offering when he ran for president in the 2020 election. Yet the Democrats, for the most part, chose Joe Biden over Andrew Yang. So yeah, let's not do that again. If you're someone who's currently planning on voting for Joe Biden in the 2024 Democratic primary, go ahead and move your vote on over to Dean Phillips instead. There's literally no good reason to vote for Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. It makes no sense whatsoever. If we get to the general election and Biden is again the Democratic nominee who goes up against Trump again, right? If we do that all over again, fine, you can vote for Biden in that situation. I don't care, okay? But right now, Biden's not up against Trump. He's up against the other Democrats. This is the primary. But yeah, Biden's not going to provide a basic income. Marianne Williamson doesn't appear to be interested in providing a basic income this time, right? I remember back in the 2020 election, Andrew Yang did actually inspire Marianne Williamson to adopt UBI as part of her 2020 platform. So I was hoping and expecting that it would carry over to her 2024 platform, but it did not. She's dropped UBI from her platform for election 2024. Apparently has no plan of providing a universal basic income when she's president. So I guess you could say that Marianne Williamson is now an inferior candidate compared to what she was in election 2020. That being said, Cenk Uygur is technically one of the Democratic presidential candidates as well. He says he's not sold on UBI. Sounds like he doesn't have any intention of doing UBI as president. Independent candidate RFK Jr., who left the Democratic Party, says that he wouldn't rule out doing a UBI because, he doesn't know what's going to happen with AI. But, I gotta say, this doesn't exactly sound like a UBI plan, right? It doesn't sound like he has any intention of making universal basic income happen during his presidency. I really don't think he'd be a particularly good president. Independent candidate Cornel West, who ditched the Green Party, also does not have UBI on his platform. I don't think he'd be a particularly good president. Green Party candidate Jill Stein doesn't seem to have UBI on her platform. Neither Donald Trump or any of those other theocrats from the Republican Party, the ones that we saw up in the debate stage, right? None of them have any intention of providing universal basic income. They actually subscribe to economic pseudoscience, right? That's one of the things I saw coming up quite a bit on the Republican debate stage. This idea that the government spending a bunch of money is somehow causing rampant inflation, making all the prices go up or whatever, right? That's just economic pseudoscience. The actual cause of inflation, or in other words, the actual cause of price increases, is the people who raise prices. If they simply stop raising prices, then the prices would stop going up. This is why I support having federal funding going into paying business people to stop raising prices, and even the implementation of technologies that physically prevent them from raising prices. I also think that we should have federal funding put into providing free homes for the homeless so that they're no longer homeless. Maybe even free starter homes for first-time homeowners. In fact, while we're at it, let's just make everything free, right? Let's render money obsolete. Let's render UBI obsolete, right? Okay, so that makes sense as like sort of like a long-term objective because it is a major construction undertaking. You know, we have to like build all these self-sustaining homes and communities where machines are doing all the jobs that nobody wants to do, and everyone gets access to things without a price tag because we don't have to pay machines, right? I certainly think we should be moving in that direction, right? A system where money's obsolete and everyone gets stuff for free. You don't even need a UBI in that kind of system. Okay, certainly think we should be moving in that direction, but it is a major construction undertaking. It would take years to fully implement, maybe even decades, possibly centuries. I don't know. It's a big project. Okay, we certainly need at least a universal basic income during the transition to that. But of course, since our politicians haven't even started transitioning to that, well, we still need a UBI just because we're poor. We're poor. And we need UBI for that reason. Anyway, in conclusion, it really is looking as though Dean Phillips is the best presidential candidate that we have in the 2024 presidential election. If you're thinking about voting for someone else, maybe don't. Maybe just go with Dean Phillips. Let's try to avoid Trump versus Biden part 2 because, I mean, just reflect on like Biden's job performance. The fact that like he was supposed to get Roe v. Wade codified, but instead it got overturned, which of course triggered abortion bans in half the states. I could go on, but suffice it to say, it really seems as though, if it does come down to Trump versus Biden again, either way, we're just going to keep descending even further into a MAGA-tarded theocratic dystopia. Regardless of whether we get a Trump victory or a Biden victory, it's not good news. Biden apparently doesn't have what it takes to stop theocracy.